Let's call it muscle pathologies. It's not really pathologies. Kind of pathologies. Sarcopenia. Not really pathology. Now here's your medical terminology lesson. Sarco refers to muscles. Penia, low. Okay, like lymphopenia, thrombocytopenia, So that's normal process that starts happening right about like 30, 35. Okay? It's normal. People are losing muscle as they get older. The way to offset it, resistance training. Okay? Now this is really important. Loss of innervation. So your muscles are under constant muscle tone. When you lay in your bed completely relaxed, or you think so, your muscles are partially contracted. This is called a muscle tone. Does that make sense?
Like your skeletal muscles? Like
Yeah.
voluntary muscles?
Your skeletal muscles are constantly receiving stimuli from your motor cortex through rubrospinal and reticulospinal tracts. Okay, just to maintain them slightly contracted, like so they're not at the zero level. Turns out that contraction is essential for normal function of a muscle cell. Does that make sense? When people lose innervation, why? Spinal cord injury. Muscles that lose that innervation they degrade. Does that make sense? And they are replaced by the connective tissue. Simple words, fat. Does that make sense? So basically muscle tissue is completely gone. Well, when I say dystrophy, I refer not in general to dystrophy, but to muscular dystrophy. Okay? Turns out there's a protein called dystrophy. So dystrophy, lack of food, lack of growth. Most famous is Duchenne's muscular dystrophy. I can never remember. I think it is X-linked. I mean, it's not autosomal. It's a genetic disorder. It's not autosomal genetic disorder. I believe it's sex-linked. I don't remember exactly. The point is, there is a protein called dystrophin within the muscle cell. What it does, it connects your, basically, myofilaments, the myofibrils, to the membrane. Does that make sense? When dystrophin is damaged, when it's dysfunctional, there's no connection, membrane becomes damaged, and your immune system perceives that as an injury, legitimately so, and it starts to repair your skeletal muscles. Well, skeletal muscle cells do not divide. So the repair results in the formation of scar tissue, basically connective tissue, loss of muscle function. There's no cure to Duchenne's. It's uniformly lethal condition, usually in the late 20s. because it's a progressive condition. Muscles become dysfunctional. Eventually, the paralysis of the diaphragm and accessory respiratory muscles. Sometimes people die earlier because the inability to properly breathe results in a bunch of respiratory failures. And that's it. That makes sense? Last bit about the neuromuscular cord. So during muscle, the only type of muscle that divides, quite frankly, is the smooth muscle. So the neuromuscular coordination, the famous story, which is really hard to talk about. A couple of things about neuromuscular coordination. The peak of neuromuscular coordination falls at about age of 12. Okay, those of you who lived through age of 12, you definitely were earlier, or more recent there than I was. You can learn new skills really quickly. Okay. Another interesting thing about neuromuscular coordination, people who do sports as kids generally have higher cognitive abilities. Not necessarily, team sports are great, but any kind of movements, I don't know if we can count chess, but any kinds of movements develop brain in a cognitive way as well, not only like strength and stuff. That makes sense? Questions? Okay.